Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3. Volume 3 follows the Guardians as they are attacked by a mysterious villain known as the High Evolutionary, someone who threatens the lives of all the Guardians. The Guardians are always fun, whether it be them appearing in their own films or them appearing in Avengers movies. And again, that was the case here. The fun, the goofiness, the jokes were all here, and in recent MCU movies, the humour has been woeful, to say the least, but in this film, it is funny. There are some genuinely funny moments. I laughed, and it's pretty much down to the delivery from these characters who are just played so well every time by the cast. Not every line was perfect. You know, it is Marvel at the end of the day, so there's going to be the odd joke that feels out of place or just unnecessary, and, you know, in a scene where maybe it feels like nothing needs to be said in a humorous way. But for the most part, the humour landed thanks to these characters and the way they performed it. Everyone was excellent in this movie. It's hard to pick a standout. You know, I think the chemistry between these characters is just always developing from each film, and because we know what they're like from all their appearances, you know, it just becomes funnier and funnier, I think, the more we see them. And everyone delivered their funny moments very well, but also delivered their more serious moments very effectively. As I mentioned, the main villain was the High Evolutionary. He was pretty cool. I liked his design and his costume, and I think his vision was interesting. He's one of those villains a bit like Thanos, where you can understand his vision and his motivations and what he's trying to achieve, even if in the grand scheme of things it's evil. And because of that, it made him an interesting villain. You felt like he was not just some guy who can do magical things and he's evil and wants to destroy something. He's actually a bit different, and these characters are at a crossroads with him because he wants to achieve one thing, but what he wants to achieve would harm them. You also get this kind of sub-secondary villain played by Will Poulter, and he was called Adam Warlock. He was okay. You know, he didn't really get much of a feature, and it was kind of hard to gauge what his character was really about. It felt like he didn't really have his own sort of vision like the High Evolutionary did. It just kind of felt like he was just flying around doing his thing, and as I said, he didn't feature much, so there's not really that much to judge about him, but I still liked his inclusion in this film, even if it was kind of scattered and a bit random. The best thing about this film for me was that it actually felt different. It felt like it stood away from the usual Marvel formula and actually had its own identity. I could never guess where the film would go next and how it was going to conclude. You know, I was just kind of taken on a journey, and I just zoned in on that, and I was just really fixated on this story with these characters. As I said, the Guardians especially are known for their comedy aspects. However, this film had a gritty, dark, and emotional plotline that didn't handicap itself at any point by including stupid jokes. The plotline revolves around Rocket and his past, and of course we know from little things that we mentioned in the past that he's been like experimented on, and that's why he is the way he is. That's why he's a talking raccoon that, you know, is very witty and can shoot guns and flies around. And exploring his past was really, really fascinating. I really enjoyed these flashbacks. I think they were the standout point of the movie, and they're the thing that stuck in my head the most from this film. The timing of the way they implemented these scenes, it didn't feel like you would just randomly flashback. It felt like it happened at the right moment. It felt like it was paced really well between flashbacks and when you're just in the present current time with the characters. The pacing was definitely really well done, really on point. The runtime for the movie was perfect, and yeah, just in general, everything to do with Rocket in this film was really good, and Bradley Cooper's voice acting was, you know, just great as it always is. The more I've sort of sat on this movie, the more I appreciate how well done it was. However, in regards to the plot and the conclusions, I do feel like they maybe could have made some bolder decisions. I don't want to spoil anything, but I just feel like in this movie they had these moments where they really could have done something quite bold and quite brave and sort of sucker punched us as the audience, but it felt like they didn't quite follow through. It felt like they sort of hesitated to do something really just not even like super bold, but just bold for a Marvel film, because, you know, a lot of the time it's predictable and you feel like nothing is really too much at risk, whereas here it felt like things were at risk, and it just felt like they didn't quite go all the way and do something that's going to be really emotionally impactful. Obviously, no one wants anything bad to happen to characters that they like, but it does feel like in this film that they could have done something that would have made more of a lasting impact overall and just taken the story to a more meaningful place if they'd done some things a little more bolder. That's all I can really say without giving anything away. I just feel like the risk-taking wasn't quite as high as it could have been. It's not a huge issue. It's not even necessarily a flaw with the movie, but I just think if they had taken these extra risks and done something a little braver, it could have taken the movie up a notch. Visually, this movie was very good, much better than some of the previous MCU CGI that we've been getting, and the soundtrack is also really, really great. Not just the great song choices that we're used to getting in Guardians movies, stuff from like the 70s, 80s, 90s, but also the score for the more like emotional and gritty scenes. I think that was really, really just strong, and the balance between that and then also getting some fun like pop music when you go to other more upbeat situations. I just think as a whole the soundtrack and the sound was very, very good in this movie. This was a really good movie, the best MCU movie since Spider-Man No Way Home, and possibly the best Guardians of the Galaxy movie out of the trilogy. And it's very clear James Gunn is just the man you want making superhero movies right now, because he's doing great in DC and he's doing great in Marvel. So just let the man do his thing. Guardians Volume 3 was not trying to link to other MCU shit and try and set up other shit. It wasn't trying to connect to like a bigger universe as a whole. Apart from the fact that obviously the Gamora in this film is the Gamora from Endgame, which is the Gamora that doesn't remember stuff because it's like a past version of herself. Of course, that's the only sort of thing you get in this film where it's tying back to something previous, but as a whole it just felt like a fresh movie and an adventure just revolving around these Guardians, and you don't have to worry about a load of other shit. So I would give Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3 an 8 out of 10, and on the rewatchability rating, I would definitely rewatch this occasionally, and it's the sort of thing, if I'm going on a Marvel binge, I would not skip it. If you've seen it, let me know what you think about it. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye bye.